From already damaged roofs and scattering debris, Delta came ashore last night. It's now a strong tropical storm. Louisiana is still reeling after Hurricane Laura. And joining us now is meteorologist Matthew Cappucci with the Washington Post. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, anytime, Andrea. I was in the thick of things last night. We got winds gusting over 150 kilometers per hour, and I can tell you it was a pretty powerful storm.
All right, and Delta has now made landfall in Louisiana as a Category 2 hurricane. How severe is Delta at this point?
Right now, the good news, it's moved away from the ocean, which means it's lost its fuel. So it's starting to come down right now, still producing very heavy downpours inland over the Mississippi and Tennessee valleys. Few tornadoes possible as well because there's still some remnant spin in the atmosphere. But the good news, the worst of the winds have subsided. Now Delta's moving over the Appalachians. We'll move into the northeast, the mid-Atlantic on Sunday into Monday, again with very heavy rainfall before it finally exits and weakens sufficiently.
And Matthew, which areas are the hardest hit?
Well, down here in Louisiana, southwestern Louisiana, they got the brunt of this storm. And the bad news, this was the exact same area that saw the worst of Hurricane Laura back in late August. And that was a Category 4 storm with winds gusting over 220 kilometers per hour. I was there for that storm. I arrived 2 nights ago on Thursday night. And even before the storm set in, there were piles of debris, trash, rubble on the side of the road where people lost homes and buildings, destroyed buildings from Hurricane Laura. And all that was strewn about last night by severe winds and flooding, and that just added insult to injury for these poor beleaguered people.
And speaking of the damage, what does the recovery effort look like?
You know, it's going to take at least months, if not years, to really fully restore this area back to what it was beforehand. There's just simply so much, and part of the challenge is that Lake Charles is in a rather isolated area of southwestern Louisiana. Baton Rouge, about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. Houston, 2 hours away. So aid from other cities is tough to bring in because it's so far away. And this is a town of 78,000 people. And when you consider half the buildings in that community lost their roofs, there are skyscrapers without a single window left in the entire building. There's a lot of work to do in both restoring the electrical grid and just trying to get the community back to what it was, that it will take a long time to do.
All right, and Matthew, hurricane season is officially over in November, which is just a couple of weeks away. How would you describe this hurricane season?
This one has been off the charts in terms of activity. We've seen 10 landfalling U.S. storms this season, which beats out the previous record. Now, the other thing, we're in the Greek alphabet now for names. We've used up every single conventional name that we typically would have for this year. Force revert to Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, and will likely continue if we get more storms. Now, keep in mind, we've only ever used Greek storms once before. That was back in 2005, the same season when we saw Hurricane Katrina. And the only time we ever got another Hurricane Delta back in 2005, it was a month later. So we've beaten out record pace by a full month. I do think things are going to start to wind down, but more bad news, I see another batch of rising air over the Atlantic sometime into November. So it looks like things will probably pick back up again in about 3-ish weeks' time. And only by the end of November into early December should we finally start to breathe a sigh of relief.
Wow. All right. I heard the words more storms. Wow. All right. Thank you so much for that. That's meteorologist Matthew Cappucci.